Hey, what's up, world, and welcome to the 84th edition of the Take One podcast. I am your host, August C. Jones, and right now I have actually a few things I wanted to tackle on this podcast. But because I skipped a week, I got to cover a little bit of stuff up in the box office. In this one, I'm talking about what movies I feel will dominate the month of September. The month of September, and talking about Eminem's new album, new change of pace. Actually, not a change of pace. Basically, I made this podcast to talk about all forms of entertainment, no matter what they are. What they are, whether it be movies, shows, the news about both of those mediums, or just music or anything else. I mean, anything that's revolving around any form of entertainment that I feel like interests me and I want to talk about it on here. And I did want to incorporate more music talk into this podcast, so this would be kind of somewhat of the first episode where I'm talking about this. I don't think I ever covered music or anything music related in this podcast, but basically I'm going to be covering that because there's a lot to say about that. I mean, a lot to say about that. And there's some other stuff I wanted to get to, but I know my discussion on Eminem's new album and the reactions and everything for that it's going to take up a lot of time. So by the time I get to that, talk about what would dominate it in the box office, it may be a 40-minute podcast, maybe even more. I don't know. But to cut it short, I'm about to stop talking on this intro and get right into it. So, basically over the weekend, Friday to be exact, last Friday, Eminem dropped a surprise album for everybody. Now, I think he may have dropped it midnight, because I went to go see. Okay, so last week I got the AMC Stubs A-list. So I am an AMC Stubs A-list person right now. And I went to go see my first movie, which was Crazy Rich Asians. And so, movie was good, whatever. So when I got home, like I said before, talking about the movie pass thing or whatever, whenever I go to see a movie, I usually try to make the last show. That was my alarm. I usually make the last show, whether it be a 9, 10 o'clock type show or anything. So by the time I got out of the theater, it was like, past 12 or whatever. And lo and behold, I went on YouTube. Something I don't usually do. I had went on it through my TV, put it like that, which is something that I don't do because Comcast just recently put YouTube to where you can do it through the your box or whatever, your TV box. And so I just went on there. I don't even know what I was looking for. I just went on there, whatever. And now I'm seeing this track by Eminem and Joyner Lucas. Now, Joyner Lucas is someone that I did get into this year, and he is a phenomenal artist, a phenomenal rapper and all this stuff. I heard a lot of his stuff, his freestyles, original songs. He is just phenomenal. And Eminem, we all know that he's phenomenal at his wordplay and everything else. So, that was like, okay, I got to hear this, because this has got to be a hot record. Listen to it. It's a hot record. Just crazy. And so, looking at it, because when you have like the, when there's a audio playing, you got the picture in the background, and it was Kamikaze, like an album cover. At first, I thought it was Joyner Lucas, because I don't listen to him like hardcore like that, but I thought it was his album. But then I saw another song that was Eminem's, and they had the same album cover. So I'm like, did Eminem come out with an album that I didn't know about? Because I'm not really in tune into music like I used to be years back. I'm more in tune into the movie scene or whatever. But as far as music, I don't really be in tune. So I wouldn't have been surprised if he came out with an album a week before and I didn't even know about it. But, I was just like, what? So I look on Spotify and it's a whole album. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm listening to it. I think I only listened to like maybe half of it before I fell asleep, and then I listened to the other half going to work the next morning and everything else. And the album was hot. And the one thing that I really did get from the album was that he was basically aiming it towards everybody who said something about his last album. And just to put it all out there, because I am going to do a full on review. I mean, on this one, but I'm gonna do another one that's a separate like music review on my channel. I'm gonna try and do it by this weekend. But this is a deep in depth my feelings about this, album. But yeah, like I said, the album was really phenomenal. He went harder. I mean, I haven't listened to Revival all the way through. I listened to maybe like almost half of it, and I really couldn't vibe to it. He has a lot of lyricism, a lot of goodness to it, but when it comes down to it, it just wasn't a good Eminem album so far from what I've heard from it. And then the whole consistency, am I saying that word right? Consensus. You know what I'm saying. The public, critics, rappers, fans all agree that it's not his best project, and people then panned it, then got at him, just saying how disappointed they was with it. And so he's just lashing out on everybody who said something about it, which is cool. But he literally does it on almost every single track. Now, he caused a big uproar because no one knew that he was going to drop it. It was a surprise album, so it made a lot of noise. A lot of noise through people on just internet, social media, was just going crazy on it, especially with the mention of some names. So, yeah, basically, I don't know, like, it just caused uproar because it was much better than what his last album put out. It was better beats, better rhyming. Just, he went in, like, you got the sense from this album that he just did not give a fuck. He was going to say who's ever name, say what he wanted to say, get it all out there, and just kill it. And that's exactly what he did. This album, it does a lot. He went crazy. But I'm not even from like hearing it the whole first time, I wasn't as you can say, a lot of people will probably go Google crazy gaga over this album, which I understand. Go Google crazy over it because he snapped. He did his thing. My one big major flaw on this was just that he dedicated this whole album to being a how can I say, to being a response to people who didn't like his old album, but at the same time saying how much his other album was a bad album, but getting mad at people for literally agreeing with it. Even though he didn't come out when he put out the album and say this is a bad album, but here you go, and they agreed with it. It was like, you can say that he kind of agrees with their sentiment, if that's the better way to put it. And it's kind of weird, like you're contradicting yourself. You know that you put out a bad album, but yet you're mad at other people for saying that it was a bad album. Whether they're a critic, a broadcaster like, Charlemagne or Joe Budden, or if they're actual rappers and stuff. Not saying that Joe Budden ain't an actual rapper, but he's retired. But I'm going to get more into that a little bit later. So, I'm talking about like a person like a Nicki Minaj or something like that actually is like rapping, or Drake or anything like that. As well as fans, like all of them are coming together and saying that it was a bad album. And it's a lot of people that are crazy Eminem fans that are saying this. And a lot of times it's good to be, criticized or critiqued or whatever. A lot of times people will do it because of hate. But if you're getting if you're basically getting critiqued by people who actually like your stuff, like your albums, you're the favorite artist or one of the favorite artists and stuff like that. And they're telling you in just the world that like this album is disappointing. Learn from it. Do better. And that's exactly what he did. But he did it in the form of just something completely just negative. I feel like he should have did like he did with Recovery. Mention it maybe a couple times or something like that. He did that. Matter of fact, he did that on Recovery and he did it on Bad Miss Evil album, where he mentions, a bad album that he's made, talking about he's never gonna go back to that again and blah blah. And then proceed with trying to make good music, and this album he didn't do it. Like this album, and I'm gonna state all this stuff into the regular review. So whether you hear this or hear the regular review, whatever, this is just gonna go a little bit more deep in depth. But he's really heavy-handed with it. He put a crazy amount of emphasis. It's just so heavy-handed. Like how he felt about people hating his last album, how he felt about his last album. If that was a hammer, he would be bashing our heads in to where it's like all it is just like face matter, bone and blood and brain matter and all that stuff. I know I said face matter, but just skin and all that stuff. And literally, we have no life in us. He's still bashing until it becomes like applesauce and stuff like that. And that's exactly how I feel with the album. Now, the way he goes about doing it is so good because he's so lyrically talented and just so gifted and blessed with the skill that he has. It's like it kind of masks it. But when you break it down and just look at it, it's like, man, you're like, why are you so heavy-handed with it? Like, I was talking with my friend, and she said that, I was explaining it to her, because she don't really listen to Eminem or whatever, or, it's not really a big factor to her. But even she said that, like, just from what I was telling her, like, she could see if it was, like, 1 or 2 tracks. But other than that, like, almost every single track, and then even the tracks that wasn't really about it, like you got 1 or 2 mentions about it, and it's just, that was just one of the biggest flaws. I felt like going off of that premise for this album was just a weak point, because the album, I said to people, it sounds so strong. The beats, the what the content is, how he's saying it, what's been said and all that stuff. It sounds, it's a somewhat solid album. I'm not even gonna say it's a solid album, but he goes at it and it sounds incredible. It sounds so strong, everything put together. But the premise of the album makes him look weak. It really makes him look weak, just as an MC. Now I get it. I totally get it. And they had stated this on the Joe Budden podcast, which is something that I've kind of like witnessed myself, where I experienced myself, because I don't really rap like I used to. All growing up throughout like my preteens, teenage years, and even like through half of my 20s, I was rapping. Like, I was really, like, actually putting out stuff or whatever. I wasn't, like, one of the people that was, going on stage and stuff like that. But I was actually writing songs and stuff like that. So I understand the whole thing of, they say rappers are sensitive. Rappers are, are like the hardest judges on themselves and stuff like that. Or, and it's true. Because there's a lot of times that I critique myself. Like, I could put out something. I could write a rap and think that it's okay, I could have done better, I could have did this, Somebody else can hear it, and they'll be like, man, you snapped. I'm like, it's okay. Like, I feel like I could have did better. And more than likely Eminem, with how incredible we think that his verses are, the most incredible verse that you might hear that think is the best verse that Eminem ever did, he probably could have been like, if I could, I'd go back in time and rewrite that because I don't like that. He probably be thinking the same way, and that's exactly what we got from this album. Or and well, basically, yeah, just his whole thing of he is a sensitive artist. A lot of that got to him. How people didn't like it, how just the feedback that he got from it, and it's like I totally get it. I totally get it, but it's a certain way that you go about it. As a rapper and certain stuff, you can feel vulnerable, but it's kind of like you have the ball is in your court. You can determine how you want to look. You really can determine that. Whether you want to look strong or whether you want to look weak. And Eminem, he chose to go where he looked weak. And even up in like one of the songs, he said that Royce told him to take the high road. Because like he was basically just stealing, what is it? Not stealing, but borrowing. I guess you could say just borrowing Kendrick Lamar's kind of flow when he said revival didn't go viral, and now Royce is telling me to take the high road. But fuck that, he go off of that, and it's like it just shows. Literally, he says it right there, and like he could have literally took the high road and just went just whatever. Just did this album, but learned from it, like he did with what was the album that I think it was Encore. Maybe a lot of people didn't like or what, I don't know. But it was one album that a lot of people didn't like, the one where he was using accents, and so just a lot of people didn't like that. So he basically was talking about on recovery, just do it the same way, and he chose to just mention everybody that was critiquing his stuff. And it's like, you're gonna have critiques. You've been in this game for like almost damn near, what is it, about to be 20 years? 20 years. He came out in 1999. I mean, he's been in there longer as far as like rapping, and he basically been doing rap longer, way longer. But as far as being in the game musically, the way he is a known person and stuff, he's been almost about to be 20 years come next year. 1999 is the first time that we heard, hi, my name is what? My name is... And all this time he's been stirring up all this stuff, calling out gays, pop stars, other rappers, call media, names, politicians and stuff like that. He even did it with his last album. Whole career. Talking about every single person, but the one time everybody is bashing him for one bad album, which people would say is probably like his worst album, he wants to get mad at everybody. And I understand it. You're only human. You can look strong, but that don't mean that you are strong. And not saying that you aren't strong, but not saying that it don't get to you as a human. Especially as an artist, because you're putting out something that you feel is artistic, that you feel like you put your passion into this, and maybe people just perceive it wrong, and to show that you are sitting here saying like, oh, you don't like my stuff, okay, I'm back, I don't like you, like it's like it makes him look so weak. And that's the one thing, and that's one of the big things that I just did not like about this album. And it's like I just can't get over it. Now, I've listened to this album several times, so I'm not hating at all. I done listened to it like damn near almost every day ever since he dropped it, several times, like, because the album is just so short. And there's nothing bad about that. It's easy to digest. You can listen to the album twice in a day and it feels like a full album, And that's one of the best parts about it. So if y'all would listen to this and think that I'm a hater, I'm not a hater. I just can't give him credit for something that, is, it's not as good in certain aspects as a lot of people might put it up to be. And basically it's just it makes him just it just tears, it just, I don't know, it just takes away from what this album could have done. I guess you could say I love this album, but I'm a little bit disappointed. And one of the other things that just really stood out to me was that some of the tracks don't fit. It really don't. When you listen to the album, listen to the whole album. If you guys listen to the whole album, what tracks stand out to you? And I don't mean as like really good tracks, but with the flow of the album, what tracks stand out as, this don't, one ain't like the other. Cause you have other albums where you have different type of tracks, but everything kind of like flows together. When you listen to this album, what tracks stand out? The first track blends, kind of like goes with the second track and the third track and stuff like that. The tracks that stand out to me is Normal, Stepping Stone, but I give that a pass. What is it? Good Guy, Bad Guy. I think that was both the tracks or whatever. And Venom. Those tracks stand out to me so hard. And there's nothing taken away from them songs, because them songs are all good. They just don't work for the album. This Kamikaze album with this premise, with the premise that it's given, it doesn't work. You made a whole album talking about how people hated your whole album, so you're getting at them, but yet you're talking about relationships in certain records. And then one of the other records is from a movie soundtrack. So that was just like a track that you just threw on there, And like I said, I'm not taking away. Like, the tracks are good. Like, I can listen to the track, they're good. But they just really stand out to me because they stand out from the album. From everything else that he's put out, they stand completely out. And that's one of the things that I don't know, because I feel like I've heard other people basically state that yeah, these other albums, like these songs do stand out, like it just don't fit. And maybe other people listen to it and just be like, the album is fine. They like it track for track. It's perfect. It's cool. I mean, music is subjective, just like a lot of things in life. A lot of forms of entertainment. It's all subjective. But I just feel like that stood out to me, and I just can't help but to listen to the album and sometimes even skip over Normal. Sometimes even skip over Bad Guy, Good Guy, whatever. Just listen to the other tracks. What is it? Lucky You, Greatest, The Ringer, Not Alike. And I think that's it. All of them just sound kind of like they go together, but those, it's just, they sound completely off. And that's one thing that just, and then get into another thing. Okay, so one of the criticisms that my brother brought to light that a lot of people were saying about my favorite rapper. Now, I'm not being biased. I'm not. So listen to me on this. So Royce, he has a feature on there on the song Not Alike. Which, okay, it's cool. So one of the things is that my brother pointed out that people were saying that Royce sounds like he couldn't catch up with the beat, like he was just struggling, which is the word. And I seen a tweet that somebody tweeted to him or whatever, Royce 59. Well, somebody had tweeted to Royce 59 about that. It sounded like he was struggling. And then my brother pointed out is that his verse wasn't memorable. And on one of those, I agree. The first one with him struggling. I've listened to the verse and I can see what they're talking about. It sounds like he is struggling. But if you are a person that actually is a fan of Royce the 5'9", you would know that's his style. It's other records. I can't pull it out. I can't really pull them out because I will have to find them and maybe listen to them or whatever. But it's tracks where he does that type of flow. And it's not that he's trying to keep up with the beat or he's struggling. That's just how he writes his stuff. So if you're not a fan of Royce and you listen to that, yeah, it'll sound like he's struggling, like he can't keep up or this and that. And the beat, the verse won't sound adequate, but yeah, that's just how Royce is. Take it or leave it. And then the other thing is that his verse wasn't memorable. Now I can agree with my brother on that. Yeah, his verse wasn't memorable. I wouldn't even say it was one of his best verses that he's ever wrote, that he's ever written. but it's not one of his worst verses that he's ever written. You know, and the reason why I agreed that it wasn't memorable was because when you listen to the song, Royce, I thought when I saw this, I thought they was about to do a Bad Meets Evil type of joint. If you guys heard their songs Bad Meets Evil, from the album, and then just the stuff that they did on the Southpaw soundtrack. Well, yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, Southpaw soundtrack. Royce and Eminem kind of have this dynamic to where it's kind of like a back and forth with rapping, like how kind of like Jada Kiss and Styles would do it, to where Styles would say one bar, and then Jada Kiss finish it up with another bar. But it's somewhat similar to that, to where Royce probably might spit like 8 bars, and then Eminem will go off of his verse, spit like 8 bars, and then Royce will come in, and they do that type of stuff. And I thought that was going to be that type of track. I thought Royce was going to get a lot of like audio time on this song, but he doesn't. He only has like a 16 bar verse to Eminem's 40 something bar, 50, 60 something bar verse. And it's like when you look at the ratio of the time spent with Royce rapping, it wasn't that long. It really wasn't. So to say that, like, to count that against him, I say it's completely wrong. I could see how you could say his verse wasn't memorable, but he was put in a bad position. If out of the 100% of the song, if you're only on 10% of the song, you have to have a bomb ass verse. A bomb ass verse. And like I said, this is not one of his best verses, nor is it one of his worst verses. I guess you could say it was just kind of like in between, but he was, just spitting on them. But Eminem went off. But Eminem took up more of the song. Now, this is his song, so, it is. So my whole problem with it was, if you are only going to have him on 10% of the song, why have him on there at all? I could see if he did the chorus and then had like one verse. Then I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But to have him spit the 16 at the beginning and then that's it, I could see if you did the chorus, you did a first verse, chorus, then he did the middle verse, and then chorus, and then you did the last verse and just go off. Then I could see that. But for you to, for Royce to be on an album, on a song, and it's like he has such a small part, what do you expect people to think about it, And like, I'm not being biased. I'm just stating facts. If you're a Royce fan, then you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then you won't know. And you'll think that I'm biased and all that stuff. But, listen to the song. Tell me how much of the song is Royce in. So he's not going to have a memorable verse. Listen to Bad Meets Evil. Yeah, it's a lot of songs on there that Eminem does, do better. But it's a lot of songs where I would say Royce did better than him. And just the songs that they did on Southpaw soundtrack, which is Raw. Bad Meets Evil Raw. Check it out. All I Think About. Bad Meets Evil. Check it out. It's like they have a dynamic where they go back and forth, and they basically get the same amount of time. So it was like, that was one thing that just threw me off. It was just, I don't know. But yeah, what else do I have to get into? But I think that's really about it. Just with his whole album. The whole album, I really did like it. I really, really did like it. Like I said, I've listened to it maybe about 5-6 times already. Maybe even more. Because I'll go back and forth. When I'm at work, I listen to podcasts and I listen to music. And it's like sometimes I'll listen to like a podcast, maybe half of it or the whole thing. Then I'll turn on Eminem's album. Once that's done, go listen to some more music, maybe listen to another podcast, and I switch. I have a long work day. 10 hours, 10, 11 and a half, 12 hours. So yeah, I'm listening to a lot of stuff at work. So yeah, that's basically what it is. But let's go ahead and get to the reactions. A lot of people reacted to this, and they caused out a lot of names in this, and that's what brings up the uproar. And which I guess you could say that was another bad thing about it. But I mean, you can add that to the long list of like what this album did wrong. But when it comes down to it, some names that he stated out: Charlamagne the God, Friday, Breakfast Club. Charlamagne the God addresses it. He straight addresses it. He listened to the album, and he basically said that like he still stands by what he said about his last album, but he's glad that Eminem learned from it and brought out this bomb, this fire ass album. And which I agree. I'm like, a lot of times people either they crack under the pressure and just quit, or they take that piece of coal and they shine at it, and you know they just clean that motherfucker up until it becomes a diamond. You know? So, and that's what Eminem did. Like I said, I don't like the way he went about doing it, you know, going off that premise, but at least he made a good album. And so Charlamagne the God basically said that, like, yeah, he likes the album. And he has no problem with him talking about him. You know, he mentioned his name, whatever, said bar for bar, or, you know, said line for line what he said about, you know, how Charlamagne felt about his BET cypher last year. Even he said it wasn't. I don't know. Did he say it wasn't that good? I think he was just talking about Charlamagne. But yeah, so you know, and him pointing that out, and when you kind of think about it, yeah, the thing isn't really orange. So I don't know, but that's neither here or there. So Charlamagne really didn't care. He's just glad that Eminem is back to being Eminem. That he wasn't, you know, just this whole political dude, Eminem. So then we have Machine Gun Kelly. And I'm going to get to Joe Budden because that's a whole nother ballpark. So we get to Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly is, he's mentioned up in here. Now, I didn't know at first that he dissed him until my brother explained it to me, because you know, a lot of times when you listen to Eminem's songs, it takes you some time to really get certain punchlines and stuff. And I remember that part was like, you know exactly who you are, Kelly. And I thought he was just saying that, just, you know, breaking up R. Kelly's name, but going about it is like, it makes sense. So listening to it again, I'm just like, okay. And then I guess like some years ago, back in 2012, Machine Gun Kelly had wrote a tweet about Eminem's daughter, and at the time she was like 15, 16 or whatever, talking about how hot she looks and all that stuff. And I guess after that, recently, maybe last year or this year, I gotta look it up, but Machine Gun Kelly did a song with Tech Nine. And on that song is to believe that he was talking about Eminem on there. Now, I'm not entirely sure of like why he dissed Eminem. Maybe Eminem said something to him or whatever. But okay, so he dissed him, and so Eminem came back at him. And Machine Gun Kelly really he hit hard. It wasn't like one of the best diss records I've ever heard, but when you actually analyze what he's saying and listen to it, he hit some good points. He hit some stuff on there that's like, yeah, it's kind of visible. You know, you're talking about me and what I said about your daughter from years ago, and you're just now replying with a sneak attack, you know, with a sneak album. It took you like 6 years to reply, you know. So it is kind of like crazy. Along with that, it just, Machine Gun Kelly, he got at him. That's all I can say. A lot of people might be like, oh, that was whack, this and that. It wasn't the best diss record. I can agree. But he did get at him. And that's all that you can ask for. He got at him. He really did. He's one of those rappers that he's not afraid to go at. And like I was always a firm believer in saying that Eminem isn't untouchable. He has a lot of people shook because to sum up his whole career as far as rapping, Eminem basically was, I guess you could say, if you've seen 8 Mile, the Papa Doc, the last battle is Eminem's whole career. How he basically went at him by stating everything that was wrong with him. He was putting out all his flaws, and this and that, and then gave it the mic and said, what else you got for me? What else can you say about me? I've already just said anything that you can say. So come up with something new. And that's basically Eminem's whole thing. Eminem didn't get on everybody else, but also he's then talked about himself. Relationships with his mom, his wife, and just him just addicted to pills and stuff like that. He's talked about himself all throughout his whole career, all the way up until now. And so a lot of people are back away from that because Eminem, like I said, is an incredible artist. Then on top of that, he's already put out his flaws. So what can you say about him? So a lot of people was like shook on that, but Machine Gun Kelly shows that, you're not untouchable. Even though you do point out all this stuff, I can say some stuff about you that nobody has said before, that you haven't heard before. And it's like, yeah, he did it. He did it. I like the record, and especially naming it Rap Devil. Rap Devil, because Eminem came out with the record Rap God. And, it is what it is. Like, I enjoyed it. I'm just curious to see if Eminem will respond. I don't think he will. I really don't. I think that this record was just put out for him to, get things off of his chest. But I don't think he's going to actually respond and go tit for tat back to back. But yeah, I actually did like it. And then get into another name. So recently, Joe Budden had said he was on like Instagram and he was going to talk about it on there, but he opted out of that because he wanted to save it for the podcast. So yesterday the podcast dropped. I listened to it. Not the whole thing, of course. Joe Budden was kind of smart, but it was kind of bogus, saying that what the podcast is going to be about. Because he put out something on Instagram about it. Just gave a little snippet. And he started off the beginning of it by basically talking about something else. But once he finally got into it, about like 16, 17 minutes into the podcast, what we got from it was a lot of insights on just Eminem as an artist. And this podcast is going to be going long. So if you guys listen to this is probably going to be an hour-long podcast. I have a lot to say about this, but I'm almost close to being done with this. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about concerning Eminem before anything else new pop out. But so Eminem on Joe Budden's podcast, he talks about Eminem. He touches on a lot of things, and a lot of, like, my brother listened to somewhat of it, and he's like, oh, Joe Budden upset and this and that. And I told him, like, I agree, because Joe Budden, I understand what his upset, why he's upset. I truly understand it. I suppose this is early in the morning. I'm supposed to be waking up around this time, but that's why alarms are going off. But so I get the whole reason why he's upset. It stems from just personal stuff. He's stating in the podcast. If you haven't heard it, I suggest you guys go listen to it. It's the latest podcast. It dropped yesterday, so just the Joe Budden podcast. Just go listen to it. Give it a listen. You probably can find it on YouTube or whatever. Just go give it a listen if you haven't heard it. But basically, he talks about the stuff that happened with Slaughterhouse, because if you guys didn't know, he's part of a group with Slaughterhouse that had him, Royce 5'9", Joel Ortiz, and King Crooked, Crooked Eye, whatever you want to call them. Had them all, and that was like a real one of my favorite groups, you know. And the group broke up because of some behind the scenes stuff, and he touches on the reasons why, and he touches on his relationship with Eminem. He touches on his true feelings about Eminem, and just he goes off. And he talks about a lot of stuff that is blatantly we can see. And he talks about some stuff that a lot of people more than likely didn't know. Like just how he feels responsible for, or he says that he is responsible for, you know, the demise of Slaughterhouse. Because he felt that Slaughterhouse was a great group. He felt like, you know, how they started off was how he wanted to have them go throughout their whole career. And he felt that Eminem being on the Shady Records was putting them in another path that he wasn't okay with. You know, he felt like they could have done better without Eminem. I mean, it is a machine behind them, but he felt that they could do better without Eminem. And I don't know, maybe he was right, because he touched on some things of why he believes this. Facts. And it's not opinion. This is not stuff that we can't see. This is stuff that we didn't see for years that a lot of people probably didn't pay attention to. Did not pay any lick of attention to where it would stand out in our minds. Because I know I surely didn't. But basically he basically was just talking about how, like, certain verse, like, they didn't have creative control over how their album was going to come out. A lot of the beats that they put out wasn't fitting the group. It was just Eminem beats. It wasn't Slaughterhouse type beats. He felt that with the loss of creative control, that a lot of times they were seeing their tracks to whoever, and when it comes back, it'll be a totally different track. And he said that was the first time he's experienced that in his whole career. And it was just, it wasn't a lot of exposure. And he put it due to the fact that Eminem, like he stated on his album about Stepping Stones, of talking about D12, which is a great track, and how he feels responsible for maybe not pushing D12 to where they could have been solo acts and just been something without him. They could have been D12 or did something without Eminem. They could have been great on their own. At least had their own career. And he feels just like he stopped it. Like, he could have done more. He should have done more, but he didn't. You know? And it was all just to better him as an artist. As, you know, just as a brand, as Eminem as a brand. And he basically said that that's what it was. He felt that Slaughterhouse was just another stepping stone to make Eminem better. And he pointed out. Now, before, like, a lot of people might look at, oh, Joe Budden tripping, he just mad, blah, blah, because he ain't going nowhere, whatever. But look at the facts. Slaughterhouse is one of the biggest rap groups. Literally, people could put them right next to Wu-Tang. I ain't gonna say as decorated as certain groups, but you would put them right next to a Wu-Tang, as far, you know, in Locks, Bone Thugs and Harmony and stuff like that. You put them right next to some of the greats. I ain't saying that they're top 5, but a lot of people might put them in the top 5. But they're definitely in the top 10. Close to the top 5. Because Slaughterhouse, yeah, they didn't do too much. They only had 2 albums, maybe like 2 EPs, 1 mixtape, or something like that. You know, but as far as the skills of each individual by themselves, collectively, they were awesome in both aspects. They may not be as popular as a Drake or Eminem or something like that, but no one could deny any of their skills. Anybody that listened to Crooked Eye, Joel Ortiz, Joe Budden, Royce the 5'9" can all say that they can rap. There was no weak link in the group. You might have your favorites. Joe Budden might not be your favorite. Joel Ortiz may not have been your favorite or whatever. But whatever the case, you can admit that these guys can fucking rap. Crocodile wasn't one of my favorites in the group, but he fucking is incredible. Crocodile is a person that you don't want to get tangled with. You know, if I was rapping right now, I wouldn't want to get into tangles with Crocodile. Because he's a beast. You know, so it's like you can't deny it. But yeah, this is one of the, like, this could have been one of the greatest rap groups of all time. With the backing of Shady Records and letting them do what they did. It could have, and he basically just was saying that, you know, they was just a stepping stone. Eminem admits it on his album. He felt like it was no good. It was poison. Not in those words, but basically, you know, I'm just summing it all up. And he also touches on how he feels that he's better than Eminem. That he's been better than him for the past decade. You know, and that the reason why is that Eminem is an incredible artist. Like, he gives it to him. He said that he is the best lyrical artist on the planet. And he won't deny that. But the reason why he said that is because he says that they're both from an era to where when you're considered a rapper or MC, it meant that you say shit up in your raps. And he feels that Eminem for the past decade haven't really been saying anything. And that could be, that's arguably, you know, you can say that that's really, like, arguably, you know, whatever. You can argue with that. Whatever. I don't fully agree with it, but I see where he's coming from. And just when you listen to Joe Budden is he's a rapper that talks about real shit when you listen to it. I mean, of course, he's gonna have his little records or whatever. It's just kind of like for like radio, but when it comes down to it, Joe Budden, yeah, he says a lot of stuff in his records. You know, he's retired now, but you listen to his songs, yeah, he's been saying some shit. But like, yeah, he really feels that he's better, and like a lot of people that's not biased that's not biased towards like Eminem will probably say that other rappers are better than Eminem as far as content wise. And he was stating the fact of like Eminem been sheltered his whole life as far as like musically, his whole career, and he's just been put on a pedestal. He feels like he's put in a certain position to where he don't need to do certain things. He don't need to look out for these other people, and they just kind of like bring it back to the stepping stone. You know, when you look at Shady Records, besides 50 Cent, because I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, 50 Cent." Once I say this, who else has blown up from Shady Records? Who else? You may remember some names. Some people might have done good on there, but who from Shady Records from years ago, over a decade ago, is still rapping now and still making noise? No one. D12 was only D12 when Eminem was a part of it. If Eminem wasn't that, no one gave a fuck about D12. Obi Trice, like, people just knew his name. He was hot when he was like on Eminem records, but who actually went out to the and it's not saying anything about Obi Trice. I haven't really listened to him like that to garner thing, but from what I heard from him, he's a good rapper. Like he's really good. But I'm not about to go out to the store to cop a Obi Trice album. Who is? Did any of you guys go cop a Obi Trice album? Do you even know the name of his first album? Do you even know if he came out with another album? I mean, and what other artist was under D12? I mean, what other artist was under Shady Records that you could think of other than D12 and Obi Trice? I'm waiting. I mean, maybe you could say, I mean, is Yellow Wolf under Shady Records? I'm talking about back then. You know? And then a lot of people might say, like, matter of fact, I don't even know if Yellow Wolf is under Shady Records, but is he really as big as everybody say? He is a big name, but when was the last time you heard a Yellow Wolf record on the radio? that wasn't in like the city that he comes from. You know, so he puts it out there. Then on top of that, if he feels that like, and a lot of people feel the same way. Charlamagne the God even said it, and I even like I even kind of disputed it. But after thinking about it, I'm like, this maybe could, be true. So he feels that if he went on, if him and Eminem went back to back, he feels that he would kill Eminem in a rap battle. He feels that it will be the end of Eminem. And which, at first, I'm like, no, I don't know about that. But then after thinking about it, I'm like, Joe Budden has a resume for dissing people. I think that he probably give Eminem some go. I really think. I think he probably could win. Probably could. This would be a high profile battle. I think Eminem will probably be able to win. I think Joe Budden will probably be able to win. I think, in my mind, I think he could go either way. It's not definitively Eminem is going to win or definitively Joe Budden will win, but I feel like it can go either way, but I think Joe Budden has a great chance of winning. I think that's what it boils down to. And he touches on a lot of other stuff. Just how he wasn't close with Eminem. How even when they was like Shady Records, doing the whole Slaughterhouse thing. He felt like I said before, like it was just going in different directions. And he almost came out with a diss record dissing Eminem, but he was told not to do it or whatever because he signed under him. So it's like, and it's just like, I don't know. He touches on a lot of stuff. He made some solid points, that you gotta look at it and you gotta like think like this is crazy because I can understand, and this is the whole thing. That when people talk about Joe Budden and they're going to listen to this, listen to it open-mindedly. Listen to it. Because I know a lot of people are going to listen to the podcast, turn it up, man. Joe Budden, man. Ain't nobody talking about no Joe Budden. This and that, and all this stuff. But you got to listen. Don't be biased. You got to listen. Joe Budden is one of my favorite rappers, but I would put Eminem over him. But I still give him a chance to talk. Don't just, if he said that like he's been better than Eminem, I'm like, oh no, I can't listen no more. He tripping. Listen to the whole thing. See where his perspective coming from, because this is a person who wanted better for his group, who wanted better for his brothers, as he called them, and they wasn't given a chance to get anything popping off. And just think. With Slaughterhouse, a lot of people still haven't heard of Slaughterhouse, and they put out a record. They put out their second album under Shady Records. How come nobody knows about Slaughterhouse? What was the radio play on like radio stations? So it's like I don't know. It is kind of funny that a lot of times when you look at Eminem's albums, you don't know who signed on the Shady Records because you don't see a lot of artists from Shady Records on his album. On this album. Think about it. Where's Yellow Wolf on Kamikaze? He has all these other artists. He does songs with a crazy amount of other artists, and he big up other artists, and one thing that Joe Budden touched on is like, where your artists at? How come you're not bigging up your artists? How come they're not as big and as known as a Drake or anything like that? Where are they at? And it's like, you gotta think about it. Like, why? Revival. When he came out with Marshall Mathers LP 2. How come Slaughterhouse wasn't on there? I was thinking of that myself. It was like a couple tracks that I was thinking like, how come Royce ain't on here? How come this would be a good track to have Slaughterhouse on there? But you got Kendrick Lamar on there. Yeah, you got Rihanna, but you got, but where are these other people? Where are the other shady artists on there? So they bringing out really a lot of flaws about Eminem that really makes him look weak, and it all just stems from this album. It really does. It just stems from this album, and he just can't get away from it. He really just can't. I don't know. But I would say just give the Joe Budden podcast a listen to when he's talking about Eminem, because he talks about it for a long time. I'm only just summing up some of the stuff that he says, but just give it a listen. Open your ears, give it a chance. Listen to it at least once. Don't cut it off. Don't be biased. Don't dismiss it. Don't whatever. I mean, if you're gonna be dismissive, don't even listen to it. Just be dismissive. Just say fuck it. Joe Budden ain't nothing. Eminem crush him, bam bam, and all that stuff. But if you want to be open-minded, listen to the podcast. At least listen to what he says about Eminem. Listen to it. Because I guarantee you, you're going to, and just listen to it with open ears. Don't just listen at it. Listen to it, with open ears. I guarantee you, he going to say some shit that's going to be like, I see that shit. Because he brought out stuff that, you got to think about. Like the stuff I just said about the artists. Look at Eminem's track listing. Look at all the Shady Records artists throughout the years. Look at how many have been on his albums, on his singles. Think about it. How many people have blown up from Shady Records? And you think about other record labels. How many people have been blown up from Rockefeller? Even if they're not popping right now, but they were big at one point. Solo acts. How many people then blew up from Cash Money, Young Money? Think about it. Wayne was one of the biggest artists, at really one point. He's not, he's still not as, he's not as big as he was before, but one of the biggest artists. Drake is one of the biggest artists now. Nicki Minaj is one of the biggest artists, and they came from under Lil Wayne. Why is that? Why is that Lil Wayne has two artists that are the biggest artists in hip hop right now, and Eminem don't have an artist like that? And I'm not counting 50 Cent. Put 50 Cent, because 50 Cent was already a brand before Eminem got to him. A lot of people didn't know him, of course, at the time, but I don't even really count 50 Cent. 50 Cent was really just a brand. He was a big brand before Eminem got to him. But I'm talking about like an artist, like an Obi Trice or something. It's just, man, like who else? That's what I'm talking about. And Royce at this point. Royce is fucking with Eminem. Why ain't Eminem constantly putting him on? Trying to sign him under Shady or something like that. At this point, I don't even want him to sign under Shady. I want him to keep doing what he's doing. Because Royce, his last album, Book of Ryan, even the album before that, Layers, fucking phenomenal albums. Fucking phenomenal. So, but yeah, I say if you haven't heard it, like I said before, check out the Joe Budden podcast, the latest one in which he's talking about the whole situation. Open ears, man. Open ears. But yeah, and that was just like all of my thoughts on it. I know I didn't talk about this for like almost a damn hour. It's a lot to say. There's a lot to say about it. So I'm about to run through like these next couple things and not make it too much longer. So basically, let's go ahead and jump right into what will dominate September. So this week is the first movies that's coming out in September. So we're going to start with that and go on from there. So all the movies that are coming out, the notable movies, which a lot of these movies I haven't even heard of. So I'm going to just go through them. So, starting off with the three that's coming out this week and going on is, God Bless the Broken Road, The Nun, Peppermint, The Predator, A Simple Favor, Unbroken, Path to Redemption, White Boy Rick, Fahrenheit 11/9, the House with the Clocks in Its Walls, Life Itself, The Sisters Brothers, Hellfest, Little Women, Night School, and Smallfoot. Not too many big major films coming out this month, but it's some decent films. The Nun is something I'm looking forward to. Might end up seeing it today because Thursday as I'm recording this. I ended up seeing it today. Peppermint is something I'm kind of interested in. It kind of reminds me of Death Wish. Not Death Wish. Yeah, Death Wish. Yeah. I was about to say Death Note, but that's what I kept messing that up with. Simple Favor looks really interesting. It reminds me of like The Gift or something. You know, it's like it's a mystery wrapped in there. It's like, I don't know. That's what it reminds me of. Of course, I'm going to see The Predator. Predator is something that I definitely want to check out. Even though I know it's not going to be a good movie, it probably might be one of those. I don't know. I want to see it, just hoping that it is good, but I don't think it's going to be good. What else? House with the Clocks in His Walls is a movie that reminds me of Goosebumps, which ironically is part 2 is coming out this year. I think next month. Well, yeah, next month because it's not on the list. But it really just, I don't know. Like, I don't know the whole history behind it because I just found out that Goosebumps 2 was dropping this year. So I didn't even know it was in production or even being made or considered with being made. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Black turned it down to make The House with the Clock in Its Walls. And, they just went with whatever they was doing. But, I don't know. Like, that movie just seemed like it's similar to, it literally has the same feel as that. So I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. Regardless, I'm looking forward to it. The Sisters Brothers, I don't know, it looks interesting. I may end up gonna go check that out. It's a smaller film, so Hellfest, may go check it out. Night School, I don't know. I think me and my friend Shay might end up gonna go see it. Smallfoot, my son wants to see it. I'm definitely gonna go take him to go see it. Which movies I think will dominate? Okay, so I'm gonna make up my list right now as I'm doing this. So basically, I think The Nun, because that's kind of like a similar situation to like Annabelle, them type of movies, or It, or anything of that nature. So I think a lot of people are going to be trying to go see this movie, especially like the teenagers and everything else. So yeah, I think that it's that's gonna be number one, the highest grossing one. Next after that, I think Night School is going to do it. I think because it has Kevin Hart and it has Tiffany Haddish. Because those are two big names. Tiffany Haddish is just getting her career started. And Kevin Hart is already established, but a lot of people still like his stuff. So I think that a lot of people are really going to be trying to go see this. And I don't blame them. I really don't. The next one is The House with the Clock in Its Wall. I think that has a good enough look to it to get a lot of people out to go see it. I don't know. I think that's what it is. I ain't really too much to say about it. I know I definitely want to go check it out. I think that is going to be part of the domination of September. And then the last... No, that's number 3. The next one will be A Simple Favor. It looks interesting enough to get people on board. I think a lot of people are going to be trying to see what that movie is all about. And then Peppermint. I think Peppermint may be good enough to be on there. I may be wrong about Peppermint. Maybe wrong. But the next movie I think will be up there. Matter of fact, let me cross that out. I'm going to put The Predator. So yeah, so The Predator is going to be at number 5. So the top 5 that I think is going to dominate this month is going to be The Nun. Number 1. Number 2 is Night School. Number 3, The House with the Clock in Its Walls. Number 4, A Simple Favor. And number 5, The Predator. So yeah, those are the movies that I feel is going to dominate. So let's go ahead and jump right into the box office segment, which I'm going to cover what I had for last week since I didn't put out a podcast last week. Cover that real quick, and then I'm going to jump into my predictions for this week. So what my predictions were for last weekend, for the past weekend, something like that. Okay, but anyway, my predictions for last week were, Happy Time Murders, Crazy Rich Asians at number 2, The Meg number 3, Mal 22 number 4, and AXL number 5. And then over not this past weekend, but the weekend before, Crazy Rich Asians was at number 1 with 21.8 million over the weekend. The Meg did 12.8 over the weekend. Happy Time Murders did 9.5 over the weekend. Mission Impossible Fallout 8 million over the weekend, and Mal 22 is 6.3 over the weekend, with AXL coming in at number 9 with 2.7 million over the weekend. And then Ken had dropped. Well, Ken was going to drop. Well, yeah, Ken had dropped over the weekend, over this past weekend. And my predictions for this, for the weekend, for this past weekend, was Crazy Rich Asians was going to still be a number 1. I thought Ken was going to be a number 2, The Meg number 3, Mission Impossible number 4, and Happy Time Murders at number 5. Which that wasn't the case at all, because there were 2 movies that knocked them out. So I'm about to go over it. So this is movies that dominated over this past weekend, which was Crazy Rich Asians took the number 1 spot yet again for the 3rd week with 21.9 million. Domestically did 119 million, worldwide 139 million. The Meg did 10.5 million, domestically 124 million, worldwide 468 million. And number 3 is Mission Impossible Fallout with 7 million over the weekend, domestically 207 million, and worldwide 669 million. Searching came in at number 4 with 6 million over the weekend, domestically 8 million, and worldwide 15 million. And Operation Finale over the weekend did 6 million and domestically did 10 million. No worldwide release, so that's what you guys got. And I was wrong about Ken. Ken came in at number 12 with 3 million over the weekend, domestically 4.1 million and 5.9 million. So yeah, I was wrong. I was really wrong. When it comes down to it, man, I did not expect Searching to hit the top 5. I didn't think Operation Finale was gonna hit number 5. Was gonna hit the top 5, but I mean, I guess it exceeded my expectations. I don't know. Like, I didn't think a lot of people knew about Operation Finale to, garner it. Cause like, I haven't even seen the trailer to it. I don't know. I gotta get up on my shit. Cause I'm slacking. But, I didn't think a lot of people would be on Searching like that. But, obviously, yeah. I know both of them gonna get knocked out the top 5, coming this weekend. I know Crazy Rich Asians it's number 1 run and came to an end, but it's all in what it is. It's all in what it is. Yeah, I mean, that's really what stands out to me. It's just the 2 movies that made it in the top 5, and I think, and Ken coming in at number 12. I thought that it would at least do decent, but I mean, it's whatever. So the 3 movies that are coming out this weekend is God Bless the Broken Road, The Nun, Peppermint. In order, my priorities will be The Nun, then Peppermint. God Bless the Broken Road isn't a movie that I don't think I'm going to be checking out. So, it's just going to be Peppermint and The Nun this weekend. I still got movies I need to catch up on. I still haven't seen 8th Grade, if that's even still in theaters. I don't even think so. Maybe. I have to look for it. Maybe they have it at an independent theater. But Black Klansman, I believe it was another film that I didn't see that I need to check out. But when it boils down to it, those are 2 new movies that are coming out this week that I'm going to go check out. The Nun, as you guys know, is a spin-off prequel to The Conjuring. As well as Peppermint is just kind of like Death Wish. Like, this woman's daughter gets murdered, and so she ends up spending some years training to get revenge. So, I mean, it looks pretty good. It got Jennifer Garner up in there. Jennifer Gardner. I don't want to mess it up, but yeah, it looks pretty decent. So, my predictions over this weekend, what will dominate, what will come out in the top 5, will be The Nun. Definitely is going to be a number 1. Peppermint, I believe, is going to be a number 2. Crazy Rich Asians, May end up being number 2, but I'm gonna put it at number 3. The Meg at number 4, and Mission Impossible Fallout at number 5. And those are my predictions for this coming weekend. And yeah, that's really about it. I'd like to thank you guys for listening to this long podcast. Didn't expect it to be this long. I thought it may be 40 minutes at best, but I had a lot to talk about with the whole Eminem situation and everything that goes along with it. But yeah. Like I said, thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you guys in the next one, episode 85. Peace out. Hey, before you guys leave, make sure you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. And you see that little bell, make sure you hit that to turn on your notifications. That way you'll be notified for anything that appears on my channel. Hope to see you guys next time. Peace out.